Hello and welcome to another AIC video. I've personally owned ThinkPad since 2013. My first video I posted on my YouTube channel was around then, reviewing a ThinkPad versus a HP ZBook versus a Dell Precision. I've literally owned over 100 ThinkPads. Yeah, I do have a bit of a problem. From my X31 through my P1 Gen 7. Everything from an X250, 270, 280, T25, T420, T495s, W530, P43S, P14Ss. The list goes on and on. X220s, X230s. I've owned a lot of ThinkPads. I've also reviewed dozens, if not 100 ThinkPads, thanks to Lenovo allowing me to be part of their brand and reviewing laptops. But there's been one laptop that I've never touched, much less owned. And that is a T480. At least that was the case until now. We have a T480 here in front of you. This is my T480 that I bought for about $100 on eBay. And it's in okay condition. You can see that it's got quite a bit of wear on the palm rest. It's got a bit of a chip here and some sticker residue here I haven't been able to get off. I paid about $100 for this, which I think is about what they're worth, especially in this condition. I might have overpaid, honestly, a little bit. It has an 8th gen Core i5 processor, 256 gig SSD, and it came with one RAM slot populated with an 8 gig RAM stick. The previous owner had installed Windows 10. I did a clean install to Windows 11, and as part of that I did add a second 8 gig DIMM for a total of 16, just so that Windows 11 would run well. And I also repasted the thermal paste on the CPU. Now, as somebody who has owned a lot of ThinkPads, why did I not buy one of these previously? For a couple reasons. Mainly, I had a T25 that I'd owned for years. Loved that laptop. Really didn't want to upgrade from it. And when I was finally ready to, these had already been out and were no longer in production. And I needed a lot more performance. And so I jumped from a T25 to a P43S. And then I've had several P series since then up until my now P1 Gen 7. And so my systems kind of need to be a little bit of an all-in-one because I do a lot of video editing and some gaming and things like that. So I needed a GPU and just overall more horsepower than a Core i5. The second reason why I didn't buy a T480, kind of a little bit more of a reason, is because everybody got one. Everybody, it's been the recommended go-to ThinkPad for quite a while now. And I tend to shy away from things that are overly popular. I try to do my own thing, I guess you could say. And so I shied away from it. The question is, why did I buy one now? And honestly, it was to see what all the fuss was about. And to see if it was worth spending money on one in 2025. See, the thing is this is now a 7-year-old laptop. That is 7 years of innovation, improvements, competition between manufacturers, 7 years of ThinkPads being bought and sold by companies in bulk, and then released and being sold on the secondhand market, 7 years of depreciation, 7 years of being overhyped. The T480 is not a bad computer. We'll go over some of that here in a minute. The problem is that far too often people overpay for it. And they could get a much better system for their money if they were to buy something else. In my mind, when you buy a new computer, you should expect it to last anywhere from 5 to 6 years of good solid use. If you are in the market for a used computer, you should expect about 3 years of use out of it. If you get more than that, great. But for each year gets older, you are giving up performance and capabilities of newer systems, and you should start considering to upgrade. if you are not an enthusiast, if you just use a computer as your computer, if this is just a tool that you use and not your hobby, not your passion, that's kind of what my thought process is. That's what I've seen work best for most people in my life. And as I said, this is not a bad computer. And in a lot of ways, it's a great computer. Give me just a second and we'll open it up and take a look on the inside. All right, so we have the system opened up here. And as far as ports go, we have an SD card reader, we have an Ethernet jack, we have USB ports, HDMI. On this side, we have USB Type-C ports. We have 2 RAM slots that are upgradable. Our Wi-Fi is not soldered to the system board. It's not perfect in that it uses USB-C charging that is not easily replaceable. It is soldered to the system board, so if this port gets damaged, which they are known to do these, if you don't update the BIOS on them, they can fry the USB-C ports, or the USB-C is also pretty easily damaged. It's not a very robust port, so it is something that is a problem. So again, not perfect, but we have some other legacy features on here, like right here and right here are drain holes for the keyboard, so if water gets spilled on this, it drains through the system and doesn't get into the system board. So you might ruin your keyboard, but the rest of the system should survive. You get the bridge battery, so you have a internal battery here and you have an external battery here, which is great if you are somebody that's a power user that does need an extended battery. I'm kind of on the point of where I don't think this is as necessary anymore, but we can talk about that later. So, you know, we have some upgradable components, we have some easily serviceable components, and you know, overall, not a bad computer. Mine does have the 1080 touchscreen, which is a good resolution, and you know, just overall a decent system. And this laptop, to this day, I saw at least 24 posts of people asking for recommendations, and then the top comment on every single one of them on Reddit was to get a T480. So yeah, it gets recommended a lot, and a lot of it is because of these upgradable features, repairable features, extended battery, etc. And those are all valid reasons to recommend this laptop to the right person. The problem is it's still a 7-year-old laptop, and it shows. Number one is performance. I did a test against my P14S Gen 2, which is only 3 years newer than this computer and still 7 years old. It's not a new computer. I didn't even try to compare it with my P1. I didn't think that was a fair test at all. And I did just a video encode using Handbrake on a larger 4K video file. My P14S Gen 2 with its AMD processor took about 50 minutes to complete that encode. This, on the other hand, took almost 3 hours. So we're looking about a 2.5% difference, or 2.5 times difference in performance between this and a just 3-year newer computer. And if you're somebody like me who the speed of your computer often means money or time spent being able to do other things, that's a lot of time and a lot of money wrapped up into a slower computer. And I'll tell you, my time's kind of expensive. Another thing to consider is warranty. You can no longer get a factory warranty from Lenovo on this system. I know that there are some third parties that sell warranties, but with Lenovo, you can get an on-site repair done if you go with their on-site repair, which I can still get for my P14S Gen 2. I cannot get that for this T480. It's not even an option. And when I bought my wife's T480, when I bought my wife her P14S Gen 2, it did have a minor issue with the audio. It was having a weird crackling issue. And I was able to get the system board replaced next business day after I opened up a ticket. And I live in the middle of like nowhere. So he really had to drive out to me. I live about 2-ish plus hours north of Phoenix, but not Flagstaff. So just for comparison, nobody around me has a property that's less than like 5 to 10 acres. So we're kind of really out there. And so to have him here at my house replacing that system board next day, it could be very valuable to somebody. If this is your work, this is your school, your, you know, the way you make money, the way you support yourself, having that kind of support could be very critical to somebody. Another issue are these batteries. You can no longer buy new factory batteries for the system from Lenovo. You can only go third party. And those are pretty iffy. I've bought quite a few batteries recently, and a lot of them have not been good out of the gate. And so I've had to go back and forth with the seller and get multiple replacements in a couple of situations where the battery I was sent was no good. And so that's a problem, at least in my mind. And they're expensive because there's two batteries. You're looking at $30 to $40 each. So you're looking between $60 and $80 to replace the batteries in this system. And it's not all that energy efficient. My P14, or excuse me, my P1 Gen 7 with its Core Ultra 9 and 4070, I can get like 5 to 6 hours of battery life with that thing. Now, this did fail the battery test, but I'm only getting about 3 hours, 2.5 hours out of these batteries. So they're done. They do need to be replaced. They did fail the battery test. Now, as I said before, I do have the touchscreen, which is nice, and it is a nice resolution, but it's only 250 nits. It is not bright enough for me. Then writing this, I spent a lot of time trying to brighten this screen, and every single time I would get annoyed because it's already at complete brightness. I'm getting older, my eyes aren't as great. I stare at computer screens all day long, and I want a brighter screen anymore, and so this is just showing its age with a dimmer screen. Now, I've said some positives, I've said some negatives. What's my biggest issue with the T480? And that is that it's being recommended to non-enthusiasts, non-tinkerers. The thing that makes this laptop, this system, attractive to enthusiasts are completely lost on like 95% of laptop owners. They're never going to open the laptop. They're never going to do any upgrades. They're not going to replace any components. And a lot of them, in the end, will be unhappy with the machine. They're much better off with a newer laptop that fits their needs out of the box. People are paying way too much for it. Yes, you can find them on eBay for about $100. That's what I paid for this one. I think that's a fair price to pay for it. But the issue is, I see people posting all day on Reddit asking if $250, $400. I even saw one post that was asking if $580 for a T480 was a good price to pay for it. No, not even sort of. And if you look at the listings on eBay, they're far from alone. A lot of people are paying between $200 and $300 and up to $400 for this system. And it's crazy money for this old of a laptop. Don't do it. Don't spend that much money on it. People need to stop recommending this laptop to just anybody. It drives up the demand, causing the price to spike for those who do want it and are an enthusiast and want to tinker on it. And the people who are not really interested in its features will be, for them, it will be an underwhelming system that does not perform and need more work than they're willing or capable to give it. They need to simply look at newer options. Yes, some of the systems have soldered RAM. That's fine. Because if you get a non-S variant on a T series or you get a P series, you're still going to have an upgradable slot, and it will outperform this laptop by miles. And you can get a lot of them already with 16 gigs of RAM, and an SSD, and somebody can buy it and use it, and it'll be a great system for them, and they're not going to have to mess with it. And that's what it really comes down to, is people who are buying this should be the people who are enthusiastic and excited for this system. It should not be a catch-all system for everybody. There are newer systems. Buy the newest system that you can afford in your budget. That's my recommendation. This is not worth the hype that it has for like 95% of people. You'd be much better off with a T or P series laptop that's newer and in your budget. So I know I'll have said some things that are controversial there, but that is how I feel, and I will leave you guys up to fight about it in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.